Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Hope you guys have been good. Today I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I'm gonna do a sit down video. So one question that I get asked a lot online and also offline is how did I adapt to living in a different country? So for those of you who don't know, I'm from the US and I've been living in Seoul, South Korea for the past 5 years. Yeah, it's been almost 5 years now. So adjusting to a different culture can be quite difficult. Even if you're pretty knowledgeable about the country already, there can still be some culture shocks. So today's video is going to be some tips that helped me adjust to living in a different country. So first is to actively learn some of the language. So you don't have to be completely fluent in the language. I know it's really hard if you're going to a different country, maybe you don't have a lot of time to study. But learning the basic survival sentences, like directions when you're in a taxi, ordering food, maybe how to ask for a bag or not, you know, when you're going to the grocery store, this can really make your life much easier. And it'll also make you feel a little less like an outsider. So before coming to Korea, I didn't know much Korean at all. I think the only Korean that I heard was from some of the K-pop songs I listened to. But I didn't know what they meant, like I didn't know what the words meant. So before coming to Korea, I learned how to read Hangul, and this helped me so much. In Korea, there are many signs that are in English and Korean, but if you go into certain Korean restaurants, they only have it in Korean. And I just remember the first time I came to Korea, I wanted bibimbap. So I was walking around and I saw bibimbap. So I went in, and I don't eat meat or egg, so I had to ask for them to remove it. So I remember walking in and I was like, bibimbap, 하나 주세요. I didn't know how to say remove. So I just remember saying, I can't eat meat, I can't eat egg. So I was like, 고기 안 먹어요. 계란 안 먹어요. But then I remember they answered me and I had no idea what they were saying. So I just kept repeating myself, 고기 안 먹어요. 계란 안 먹어요. And then they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we get it. Like, so, and I ended up getting a vegan-made bibimbap. So it's especially if you have dietary restrictions, it's really helpful. So some ways that you can learn some of the language, obviously, is with some language books. Even some YouTube videos are quite helpful. And I think what really helped me was some language learning apps. And one language learning app that I really like and recommend is ITALKI. So ITALKI is a language learning platform where you can take one-on-one lessons in more than 150 languages. And what's great about this platform is that there's always a teacher for you. And since you pay per lesson instead of a subscription, it can easily work with busy schedules and you can learn at your own pace. And I really like this because I work freelance, so my schedule is just always changing, so these classes really worked well for me. And ITALKI uses a variety of learning methods like language assessments, prompts, tests. So for example, the class that I took, I wanted a lot of speaking practice and a lot of grammar repetition. So my teacher conducted the classes that way and also gave me a lot of really good feedback. And you can also practice for free in the iTalk community where you can share experiences or ask questions and receive answers from teachers or native speakers. So if you're interested, you can register for iTalki for free now. And iTalki is offering various awards for the 2022 First Language Challenge, where you have a chance to win various coupons and up to $500 worth of credits to level up your new year of language learning. So if you're interested in learning a new language, you can register for iTalki for free and explore iTalki now. And second, be familiar with how people greet each other in different social interactions. So for example, in the US, friends hug often when they see each other. And then in other countries, they kiss on the cheek. In some countries, they kiss on one cheek. In others, they kiss on both cheeks. Some countries, they don't hug that often either. So it's good to know some of these greetings and social interactions so it doesn't get kind of awkward. Actually, yeah, when I came to Korea, I had a moment of this. So in Korea, I noticed that hugs, people do hug here, but it's just not common compared to the US if I have to compare. So I remember my coworker who I was fairly close to. For my birthday, she gave me a present. So I was really happy when I received the present. I was like, oh gosh, thank you. And then I remember like I was going in for the hug because, you know, you give a present, you want to give a hug to say thanks. And I remember it was just like really awkward. She was like, oh, what? And she was just like totally caught off guard. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, maybe that's like stepping over the line a little bit. So I learned really quick. This was my first year in Korea when I was a teacher. So situations like that can happen. So it is good to kind of know the greetings, the kind of social interactions. And another thing I noticed different in Korea is that friends often hold hands or like put their arm around each other while walking. Girls will hold hands, even guys, they do this too. So I remember, yeah, holding hands, it's like more of a couple thing in the US. Like, I mean, people can hold hands, but it happens all the time in Korea. I was like pretty surprised to see it quite often. It's not something I was used to doing. So I remember when my friend, you know, she like wanted to hold my hand, it was kind of like, it was kind of awkward for me because it's not something that I would do usually. To me, it just feels like more of an intimate thing to do with like your partner. So I remember it was like kind of awkward, you know, I was doing it, but I was also like, I feel kind of like weird, you know, like it was just a little bit different for me. So it's good to know some of these differences. Okay, and next tip number 3, don't be afraid to try new things. So you're in a different country, there's going to be a lot of new things. So look up some local events, some meetups, and try some of the local food. You'll be really surprised at how much you can learn, and also you can meet a lot of friends along the way too. So I'm going to tell another story because I feel like it's good to talk about my experience as well. So when I first came to Korea, I got asked by a coworker to go on a trip. So we had a vacation. This was a foreigner package tour. So it was quite cheap. We went to an island, Ulungdo. It was this hiking trip on an island. And it was a cheap package. It came with food, it came with lodging, transportation. But it was with like a bunch of other foreigners living in Korea. And I'm a very friendly person, but I'm kind of private. I think especially back then when I first came to Korea. So going on a trip with a bunch of strangers was a little out of my comfort zone. But I was like, you know what, I'm in Korea, I'm just gonna go. So I ended up going, and I'm not even much of a hiker, but I met a lot of really cool people on the trip from all different countries, so it was a lot of fun. The hiking views were just amazing. And it was my first time to try this really delicious vegetable bibimbap called gondure, which is like this green, I think it's called like, it's a certain, what green is it? It's not spinach, it's like Korean thistle, I think it's called. But with rice and then it's sauce. Oh, so good. But yeah, sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit, you know, not too far, but like a little bit can be really exciting. You can try a lot of new things. And next tip number 4 is to expose yourself to the country's media. So watch the movies, watch the dramas. Not only will it help you learn some of the language, but you can also learn a lot about the culture as well through the media. It'll also really be cool if you meet someone and you've watched a lot of these movies, so it gives you something to talk about too. And another tip is foreigners' perspective. So I watched a lot of YouTubers who are foreigners living in Korea, and that really helped me get to know the culture more. And I also learned some really cool spots as well. And you can kind of pick up on the vibe there too. Like when they're vlogging, you can see how people are interacting on the streets, how the streets look. You can learn more about the culture, the people. And another thing that really helped me is Facebook groups too. So I'm in a few different Facebook groups of expats living in Korea, vegans in Korea. And what's great about being in these kind of groups is that you can learn a lot about what's going on in the country. People will post their experiences, places, like they'll update on the recent COVID news or immigration stuff, visa stuff. It's great for restaurant recommendations if you're missing some food from your home country. So I think it's really good if you want some insight about the country that you want to live in before you go, in a foreigner's perspective. And also it's great if you're already living in that country and you can learn more about what's going on. And yeah, some food, if you're missing some food, people can recommend. It's really helpful. And next tip is to have a cultural ally. So befriend someone who is from that country or someone who's been there for quite a while. Talking to them is a great way to get some insight about the country and the new culture that you're living in now. You can learn about places to go, food to eat, cultural differences. If you have any questions, you can ask them. Any misunderstandings you want to clarify. And it will also make adjusting to your life in a new country without your family and friends much more easier. I remember when I first came to Korea, the main struggle was just being away from my family and friends, and I did not know many people, but I remember I met my friend Jack, who helped me out a lot. He was a coworker, he was Korean, and he showed me a lot of different things and helped me out with some Korean stuff. If I had questions, I can ask him, and it really made it a lot more easier for me to adjust. And last but not least is to have an outlet or a hobby. So a lot of people who go to a different country on long-term visas are usually workers or students, and being new to the country means you probably don't know a lot about the activities that are available, and it's really easy to kind of like get consumed by the work that you're doing or the studying that you're doing. So I think it's really important to have some type of hobby or outlet that can take you away from work or studying for a bit. So for me, for example, when I first came to Korea, I was teaching, and it was my first time ever to be a teacher. I did work at a Japanese university in the US. So I was exposed to education in the workplace, but I was never a teacher. Like, I did a lot of language exchanges, but I never actually taught English or taught anything. So I really wanted to be a good teacher, and I had to study a lot when I first came to Korea, and it got really overwhelming because that's all I was doing. I was literally working, going home, studying, prepping my classes, going back to work. I had zero outlet for a while, and it wasn't until I started to take some dance classes. I went to 1 Million, and I took some of the classes there. And I also started going to the gym. And this really helped me personally because it just balanced everything out. So if you're living in a different country, maybe ask some of your friends, maybe go on Facebook, try to find some activities that interest you so you can kind of have that balance, because you're gonna need it. So if you're moving to a different country, maybe you can use some of these tips. I know everyone's different, so maybe some can work better for you. So for those who are living abroad, in the comments below, let me know some things that helped you adapt to living in the country that you're living in. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.